So here we are in our studio with Dr. Anita Haque, and I am extremely excited because she is part of my healthcare team. She is a chiropractor, and don't let her size fool you. And we're going to dive into this a little more. I'm going to let her kind of give a deeper intro as to who she is, but she is mighty. And I think a lot of people out there have perceptions about chiropractors and they think they need this big buffed guy to like get the job done. Well, wait until you hear her story. Wait until you meet her. You are going to be blown away. But she is one of the strongest chiropractors I have ever actually experienced in my life. So,
wow.
We are so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here. And like, what a great intro for you to express that, because I absolutely on a daily basis from new patients get that all the time. How are you going to adjust me? Especially males, larger males than myself, like 5'1", I'm 108 pounds, whatever, So it's kind of like I get that a lot. Or when I meet people at an event and I tell my chiropractor, oh, come on, there's no way you'd be able to adjust me. So Michelle, get that so frequent, and I kind of like it because then I get to show them like, okay, just lay on down and you don't want to mess with me.
Well, I felt like I had to start with that because it just sort of like, hey, let's just let everyone know off the bat, like this is a powerful woman that we're speaking to right now, not just physically, but also in all different ways. So I am just really happy that we were able to connect and that you get to sit here with Greta, because I know she's got a bunch of questions for you too.
Well, we have a mutual connection.
Yes, we do.
My sister-in-law works for you and absolutely loves you. And I mean, I think my first, just hearing of your name, my first impression was, wow, this woman like has really made such an impact on someone that I love and care about. And I just watched her like light up talking about work. And so you've created this beautiful environment.
Thank you.
And also she was a stay-at-home mom for a number of years out of the workforce. And you gave her an opportunity. And I think that says a lot about the kind of woman that you are.
Well, thank you. I got to say, Katie is just, I think I said this a minute ago to you off camera, but she's been a gift for me. And when I met Katie, I remember her telling me she was a stay-at-home mom. She hadn't been working. And as soon as she told me that, I knew she was the right person to come into my life. I just knew her energy, her integrity. And I thought to myself, if a woman can raise 2 kids, handle a household, she can handle anything I throw at her. Like,
hell yeah.
Yeah. This is the type of woman I need. And I know this might sound kind of crazy, but it's like being a female that owns a business can be challenging in such different ways because, there is that discrepancy sometimes of, oh, you're the owner. Sometimes I go to events, even chiropractic events, and I'll tell them, I'm the practice owner, and they'll be like, Are you the staff member? Are you working for the doctor? Are you the massage therapist in the office? I get a lot of that. Wow. So, there is a little bit of that. So having a woman that like Katie, who I knew had not only just the personality, but she had that organizational skills without her even telling me. I just knew. And she gets me. So it's kind of like I get to have this incredible human work with me whom I adore and I trust. And I called her the other day. I'm like, you're like my work wife. Like you're like,
yes.
Like, you want to be taken care, someone takes care of you, you take care of them. It's like so amazing. And my husband works with me too. So I'm lucky to say I've got like my husband and my wife at work, and how lucky am I?
Yeah.
But no, she is just incredible. She's also spoken such great things about you too, Greta. So when she told me, oh my gosh, you got it, Michelle, and the connection, it was just like there was no way we couldn't all meet.
You got to come on.
Yeah,
we had to
there was
get you
like
on.
no way, right? So yeah,
Absolutely.
she's definitely a gift for me. Yeah.
Well, I love that you even saw that, like as someone that's employing people. There's so many employers that don't. They just look at, the history, the paper, the black
What's
and
your
white.
work experience?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And just, I love that you were able to see further into like who she is.
And I also think it speaks to like these are people in our community. And so that's the other thing that's really cool is she lives in the same town that, you know, where this practice is being held. And it just speaks to like we're all here to help each other out. And I think that's
100%.
phenomenal.
Absolutely. And actually, you know, Katie and I live like 2 streets from each other. I don't know if she shared that.
Oh, no, I didn't know.
We're like
that.
in the same
You're
neighborhood
neighbors, too.
Yeah, we're like neighbors too. How crazy is that, right?
That's awesome. I love
it was
it.
like, it was just meant to be.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I've also learned from my mistakes. I think, you know, I've been in practice now 20 years. I've had my own practice for 20 years. So over the years of hiring people and firing people, I've gotten better at getting the signs, following my intuition, not just looking at what's on paper, you know, following my gut, as well as, you know, when someone's not working out, don't hold on to them too long. You know, when they show you their true colors, just cut the cord as quickly as possible. So I've also evolved and grown too, because that was probably one of my weaker, you know, strengths or lack of was finding the right team that really represented who I am. And I'm kind of a type A. I want everything to be like as perfect as can be, even though it's impossible to be perfect, right? We all know that. So finding someone who's kind of like resonates with having high standards for themselves and high standards for what they do is kind of like now what I find is like that's the secret sauce. That's the juice that I'm looking for.
Nice. So let's dive into like how did you even get into this practice? I mean, you said you've been in business for 20 years. So yes,
Congratulations.
Yeah, she just had an anniversary party also.
Yes, in July we had our
so
20th.
amazing. Yeah, I guess gosh, that much time has already passed by. What? I feel like it was
6 months.
just 2 weeks ago.
So, you know,
Time's
I was a
flying.
little bit one of those, you know, kids that grew up with my parents always kind of pushing me as I'm Pakistani, you know, and so my parents traditionally were always like become a lawyer, a doctor or dentist. Those are the 3 top like, you know, respectable professions. So I always had that in my ear. And I thought I wanted to be a medical doctor. I really did. I was kind of like a lot of people in my culture striving for that. And then as I went through my teens and I had like multiple like cold, strep throat, all that kind of stuff, I went to the doctor a lot and I hated it. I hated my experience. It felt cold. It felt uncared for is kind of the best way to describe it. I never was really touched or examined. I was just given a script. I was always on antibiotics. My immune system was low. So I kind of, in my mid-teens, I realized I don't want to be a medical doctor. This is not what I want to be doing. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's always a time and place for medicine. Absolutely. But for me at that young age, I was like, So then I thought, oh, I'm going to become a dentist. Next best thing, right, on the list. And so I actually went to University of Toronto. I started doing some of my prereqs for dentistry school. And one of the things that I did was I volunteered my time at my dentist's office before I even applied to dental school. I thought that was my best way to kind of get myself a chance to see, like, what is it like day in, day out without just it being in my head. So I went and I spent time, hours every week. And it was a female dentist, and I had such high respect for her. And she pulled me aside and she says, you know, Anita, are you sure you want to be doing this? If I was to look back, you know, I'd probably become a plastic surgeon. And I remember her telling me this, and I asked her why, and I already was feeling it. A little bit of boredom when I was in there. And she's like, well, it's just monotonous. It's the same thing, you know, there's more money in plastic surgery. So she kind of put that in my ear and it made me start to think, what else? So I don't have this crazy story that some of my colleagues do that, you know, I was hurt in a car accident and a chiropractor saved my life. I don't really have one of those stories. It was more of, okay, now that I know I don't want to do these things, what do I want to do? And I knew I wanted to be in the healthcare industry, but I didn't want to, like I said, prescribe medications. And I thought, oh, I'll become an optometrist. Great. My mom has always had eye issues, but I sucked at physics. And you need good marks in physics. So someone had suggested, what about chiropractic? And I never really understood what chiropractic was. In fact, I was probably like a lot of my patients that I see the first time who don't even recognize that we're real doctors. Sometimes people think we're just there to crack the back, right? And I kind of thought the same thing too. So once I started researching it, went to some chiropractic offices, classes again. And I started to see patients, get off the table and be like, oh my God, wow, my neck pain is gone. Wow, my migraines. Wow, my allergies are better. Things beyond just like the biomechanical pain. I was like interested. So I applied to one college just to, get out of my house, move away and get a little freedom from Toronto. I applied to this one college in Los Angeles, got in, and that was like fate. So once I got into chiropractic college, not to draw this story out too long for you ladies, but once I got in, it wasn't until I started and putting my hands on people that I had my aha moment that I am right where I'm supposed to be. It just felt right. And I was intimidated. I know, Michelle, you asked earlier, like so small. Most of my students that were with me, my fellow students were males. There was maybe like 3-4% of our class was female. So very few females, very male driven. It's changing a little bit now. So I was intimidated. So one thing that I did again from the get-go was I shadowed another chiropractor, a female one that came to speak at our school. And she was just this tiny, amazing powerhouse chiropractor. She didn't have, she had a practice not too far from the college. So I asked her, hey, can I come and hang out with you? So I'd go every week. I'd spend time at her office, watching her, helping her, grabbing her tools, listening to her, respond to patients and sometimes the things that they would say. And I think that really changed the course of how I became the practitioner that I am now.
I want to stop you for just a minute because I do think there's so much of what you're saying that I'm just like, oh, yes. Like people need to really hear this. I think when there is a calling, whatever that looks like for people, it's okay to ask for a mentor, to ask for someone, pick somebody's brain, to shadow them. I think sometimes we're so afraid to ask for that.
Definitely.
As women anyway, it feels like, I got to take care of all these things. And I know from being in a lot of careers that are typically male driven, that sometimes as the woman feeling like I'm asking for something, it's like, oh, I need help, where really what you're doing is expanding your mind and
Absolutely.
having this teacher in your life that can only continue to elevate you and everything that you're doing. So I love that is who you are naturally, is that type of person. But I want people who are listening to really hear that, because if you're not that person, I know it's so hard to get into that space. But I mean, imagine if you didn't, right?
Absolutely. I was able to maybe do that too because I was young enough to not have much of an ego. My walls were down. I was naive and I wanted to soak it all in. And I knew that I didn't want to be mediocre. And I already had a lot of, like I said, male students kind of saying stuff like, "Oh, I can do this easily." I mean, they could adjust with their strength, and I lack a lot of that strength, being so tiny. So I had a female teacher as well in the college that I would ask to spend time with me after class, saying, "Hey, can you show me that move again? Can I set up on you? Can you tell me if my touch feels right? Can you give me some pointers?" I probably was, maybe now hindsight, a little annoying, but she took the time with me. And now when I host students in my office, I like to take the time and volunteer to do that because I feel like it's just my way of putting it forward of a gift that I received. So it really made the difference. But yeah, having your walls down and not being afraid to just say, "Hey, I need more. I want more. I want to be better. I want to be the best I can be," is, I think, a great starting point for anything you do.
And especially as an entrepreneur woman too. So if there are people listening who are in that space, I think in order to grow your business and to keep evolving in whatever industry you're in, it is important to constantly educate yourself, to, ask for, clarity on things. Cause I know, being one of those, and Greta is one of those women also, where, we're in all different industries, and it does sometimes feel like you get a little stagnant at times, or your work feels lonely because you are the person that, it falls on you. But then what you've done in your office has created this amazing team. And again, I think that in this society where people are so competitive and really looking to be like, I'm number one and it's me. I think that we're moving away from that a little bit, and people are recognizing how important it is to be in community with people and begin to network, which you've started to do too, even in our own community. Yeah. Because we can't be all the things all the time.
No,
but we can be great at a lot of things, but it takes all that tenacity and that desire. And we've talked a lot about curiosity on our podcast, where it's like, get curious. And if you are, and that question comes up, don't just let it go away. Like, follow it, whatever it is.
Keep asking the questions.
Yeah.
You ask better questions, you get better answers. And, when I did graduate, I was only 23. So I, again, really young, kind of intimidated. I worked for, male chiropractors because that was majority of what was out there. And when I did, I realized I wasn't happy. I didn't feel empowered. I felt, and not because I was just like an employee per se, but it was because what I really wanted, I wasn't doing. I was following somebody else. And sometimes, as a young female working for males, you get these uncomfortable moments, these side comments that could be sitting, and this is before Me Too, right? This is before the Me Too movement. So I didn't even know that it was inappropriate, but it just didn't sit right. Certain things, compliments or whatnot, which kind of pushed me to say, I need to start my own practice. And in order to do that, I knew I didn't know enough at 23 to open a practice,
Yeah. You're going into uncharted territory.
Totally. And I didn't
that path.
I didn't want to fail either. So I hired a coach. I sought business help. I learned from other successful chiropractors. I paid them. I borrowed money from my parents' line of credit to say, can I borrow some money so I can learn how to do this right? Or else I don't know how to just open my doors. I can maybe, recite everything I learned from school, but that means nothing if I don't know how to market, if I don't know how to attract patients, if I don't know how to explain, certain things to a patient in terms of their body and what is important, what not.
And run a business
And
too.
run a business, most importantly.
And before we get too far, I know you have something to say, but I've been holding on to this one. I don't want to lose it. I think not just entrepreneurs or people our age hearing this, but like kids need to hear this. This is so important. Like, if kids are listening, or you're, young people or parents listening, like, tell your kids, shadow someone. I think that is, we just send them off to school and then, okay, you got your degree, now go to work. Maybe they hate it. Maybe this isn't their calling.
Absolutely.
Shadowing. That was so brilliant that you followed your intuition and did that. And there was something else that I wanted to say too about that, but I think it's gone.
Oh, come back.
I had something though. So what was burning inside of me was, I'm also hearing this message that you felt you were worthy enough to borrow the money, to take yourself. And whether it was a subconscious thing or an awareness thing, maybe you didn't even know at that time, but again, I have spoken to so many women who have stayed in certain jobs, or even the stay-at-home mom who's afraid to get out there and find another career path. And there's this piece, this little thing inside of them that tells them they're not good enough. They're not worthy enough to do that. And so as I'm hearing your story, though, I'm like, dang, she's just like, look, I need to borrow this money. I need to do that. But to me, that shows that you know that you're valuable and you believed in yourself.
Thanks for saying that. I don't know if I even would see it like that, until you just said that, Michelle, because I think at that time I was just so naive, that I thought, okay, it was kind of do or die in a sense for me too, to prove myself. But I have to say one thing was a catalyst. As I was working for this other chiropractor in Southern California and kind of unhappy and, missing being a student actually at that time, I read this book, and you may have heard of it. It's an old classic. It's Napoleon's Hill book, and, How to Be Successful, The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. I read it cover to cover in one weekend. I got so engaged. And that kind of gave me this fire of like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I'm going to do this. I can do this. Like, it kind of gave
motivation.
me a bit of a shift internally to sort of have the chutzpah to say, hey, I need to start my own practice. I know I don't have the experience. I need to hire a coach. And I was so lucky to have parents that believed in me from Canada. Again, I didn't grow up with any, we were very frugal growing up. So for them to take that chance on me when I started my practice, it was do or die. I couldn't fail. For me, that's the way I saw it at 23, 24. I was like, and I lived in my practice. I didn't have money for a place. I kind of snuck my air mattress in there at nighttime. I mean, I had very humble beginnings, which I so am grateful for now, because it definitely made things different for me as I see it now, right? It just.
I was going to say, you can see that in your work ethic because you are very, you're a hustler. When you're in your office, you are moving and grooving, and you are attentive to your patients, and you are constantly teaching them different things. It's not just come and get your back cracked.
Right.
There are a lot of questions that you're asking. There's a lot of observations that you're making. And so all of that, I think, comes out with showing where you started and sort of where you are now.
Absolutely. And honestly, I struggled with my own health growing up. I was overweight. My mom had sat me down around, I think, 7 years old and told me that, you're looking chubby, you need to lose some weight. And that led to a lot of insecurities, a lot of binge eating, a lot of emotional self-image issues throughout my young years, but it actually fueled my passion in healthcare. So that's why it's not just chiropractic adjusting. It's about, what are you eating? How are you sleeping? What are you thinking about? What are you what are you feeding your brain? What are you feeding your mind? What are you feeding your body? These are the things, your spirit, that I feel like makes me more whole, and that I want to bring out to every single person that I see. It's not just getting rid of that tightness in your shoulder, what led to that tightness in the shoulder, because sometimes it's an emotional thing that you keep putting there, that if we can kind of unblock that a little bit, or I can help them maybe just recognize it, then maybe we can get to the next level of really solving more issues.
Yes, and I do think that coincides so much with life and life's journey, and how all the experiences that you've had have led you here, and then also have given you more insight into how to help others.
Absolutely. Having that self experience of certain things, even with my back being sciatica, it really allows you not just to be sympathetic, empathetic, but really understand maybe how you can better help someone, knowing what it was like to be in their shoes or still be in their shoes. I mean, it's a lifelong struggle for all of us, women and men, now, with our vanity and societal pressures that we all have when we see things, images on social media, we're supposed to be a certain way or look a certain way, or
even what you were talking about earlier, and this is what I had lost and I wanted to bring up, was that be the annoying little girl, everyone, anyone that's listening. And I think that has been so ingrained in us from the time we were young. Don't be too loud, don't be too much. And it's I love that you felt like maybe I am being a little annoying, but you still asked the questions and you still pushed through and persevered and got what you needed out of life. Because I think boys just do. They don't even think twice about it. And there's so many times that these little girls, are sitting in the classroom and they don't want to call attention to themselves, or they don't want to, I raised my hand too many times, I got to just listen now and not make everyone look at me. Yes. So I love that.
Me having two older sisters, I'm the third born daughter, kind of maybe helped me do that, because I was like, hello, I'm still here. Pay attention to me.
Yeah.
Hello, as a kid.
Little. When you're little, you got to be louder. And
totally. And that maybe have led me in class to be hello, can I ask the question? So, but you're right. A lot of times we don't always ask. Even as we get older, sometimes we hold back. And asking questions. But again, I'll go back to this. What I say to myself is, and I say this to myself a lot when I'm seeing patients too, ask them better questions so I can get better answers. It's my responsibility to dig properly, and that, I think, really leads us in our life to better places too. Even for yourself, ask yourself better questions instead of saying, why is this happening to me? It's why is this happening for me?
Absolutely.
What am I supposed to get out of this? Where's the silver lining here?
Reframing. I know, it's funny because I remember being a little girl and being that person too, just loving questions. And I think that's why I love podcasting so much, because I'm I get to be the person behind the mic asking these questions. But it's interesting because there were people in my family who would tell me oh my gosh, you used to ask your mom about everything. And observing this, people would get kind of frustrated. Why don't you just tell her you don't know, or just kind of push her to the side? And fortunately, my mom just did the best she could to answer these things.
You're great, Mama.
I know, I really do. She's amazing. But I love it because I do feel that for me personally, even within my practice, and the work that I do, I don't have a problem asking people questions because I was given that space though to play. And even though I had some messages, but I also had people that were very encouraging of it, right? But yeah, I love that we're having this conversation because I do hear from so many women that are afraid to ask. Or right now, I have women who are in transition of being that stay-at-home mom. Their kids are going off to college. They feel that they have no purpose and they're really digging deep to figure out like, where do I go from here? And so I also love that it doesn't really matter what age you are when these moments happen to you, that you can get a new career, that you can
Absolutely
get out there. I mean, I feel like it's funny, what's that saying? Like the world is your oyster kind of thing, where we have so much access to things now that we really can do whatever we want. It's a matter
Absolutely.
of focusing but it takes
just
work.
trying. I think
And
just
trying.
like
Yeah.
putting yourself
Yeah.
out there.
Yes. I mean, you did it when you were young in terms of, I'm going to try dentistry. Oh, okay. Well, maybe that ain't right for me.
Exactly. This ain't
now I'm going here.
Absolutely.
I think we get so stuck, and you kind of mentioned this too, though, Greta, with how we encourage our kids to go to college,
Yes.
find that job, and
now
what?
make money and pay off that
Yeah.
college debt.
But I think what's so amazing about life is, it's okay to shift around and change your mind and take
Definitely.
different skills that you've built up along the way and figure out, where can I better serve in my life,
And we're all evolving. Like what you wanted at 25 is not going to be the same thing you want at 45.
Right.
At least I'll say that for myself. I mean,
Sure.
and I even now look at, okay, some people will say, oh, it's amazing. You've had a 20-year practice. But there are moments that I think, is this it? That's all I'm going to do. I need to do more. I got to do something better than I've already done. I don't want to be standing in the same spot,
But see, I see you too being a patient of yours, because I've been seeing you now for a couple of years, and so does my husband, and I've brought some kids in there. And so, but I do love how you've grown and expanded your practice so that it's not just that you're coming in for the chiropractic care.
Right.
There are other elements of what you offer to people that show that it's a more holistic
Tell us about
way of doing things. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, besides just doing the adjustments, which I obviously is like, my passion, my bread and butter, so to speak, but I know that there's more components, like I said, even in my own life, to really being more whole and healthy. So that's why we incorporate things like nutrition. We do massage. And I'm also one of those that feels that you are your best when you feel your best. And, in terms of vanity, struggling with my weight growing up, I too wanted to find things that would help me as I aged. And we all know how it is with hormones and all that kind of jazz that we can't avoid, that changes your body. So one of the things that I had brought in was Neep skin, also formerly known as cryoskin. And it's like a technique that helps to shrink fat cells, tighten the skin without invasive surgeries and things like that. It's like, okay, do I want to do liposuction? Not really.
Which, for all those that are listening, your skin looks amazing.
Oh,
it is so
thank
glowy.
you.
And your eyes are so bright. You're so beautiful. You look very healthy.
you.
You're glowing.
Appreciate that. But yet, I kind of wanted to incorporate more of that, because patients would say, hey, what are you doing? And it's like, I have to share this in a way that maybe they can partake and benefit too. And that's why we do more than that. And then we also just launched an app where we have based on what your ailments are, you can get your exercises, your stretches, the things that we kind of incorporate in the practice kind of to take with you. So that's also evolving. So it doesn't end. It's always like, what's next? What else can we do? What other piece of value can I add into the person I'm seeing in their life? Because it's not just the adjustment, it's the entire experience.
Because this is your passion. It's not like I just have to do this to make a living. You kept checking in with yourself and kept trying to dig and find, and you found it. And I think that is so awesome and so inspiring for everyone listening. It's like, once you find that thing that you love, that lights you up, it doesn't even feel like work anymore. I mean, I know we've heard that before, but it's like, it's really true.
It is true.
Because you just have that fire in you and you're like, what else can I do?
Absolutely.
There's more.
Yes.
And I'll also say this, adding on to that, is I love that you have made yourself a work week that allows for life balance. And
Yes.
you have very specific days that you work, very specific hours that you work. And when you're there, like I said, you're hustling, you're on the grind. But you also have so much time for you and your husband, for yourself, your family. I mean, you guys take trips together. You're really showing people, your own patients, that, listen, there's time to crank, and then there's times where you need to fill your cup, right?
So, I kind of look at my life, and it took me a while to get to the schedule because I'm in practice Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and kind of shifted my Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would coach other chiropractor students. I wanted to do more than just what I was doing in my practice and be able to, like I said, maybe have a day in my jammies while I'm doing these things, right?
We need that downtime.
We do, absolutely. So I kind of looked at my life as I like to work out. High intensity interval training. I like that for myself too. And I like to look at my life like that. So I'm high intensity intervals of work, and then I have my times of rest so that I can keep that fire going when I'm in the practice. Because, when I first started, I was there 5-6 days a week, grinding and grinding my first 5 to 7 years, of
You're going to get
practice.
burnout.
Yes, I got burnt out. My back went out. I couldn't adjust for a while because of again, I'm a smaller person moving bigger people around all day in and day out. It actually took some breaking points for me to realize that I had to shift how I practice so that I could have more longevity and more happiness and harmony, really, and peace is kind of like my main success point now. Is not about the money. It's not about this. It's just about feeling at peace internally is kind of what I look for.
That quality of life.
Yes, not having that turmoil of I gotta be. Yeah.
And you can physically see it on you, like it's like the inner glow of what you're doing to take care of yourself, but also being satisfied in your life with the work that you do. And I mean, let's be honest too. I mean, there's the physical stuff that's getting done, but then owning a business, no matter how many people you have working for you, there's still all the other things
always
that need to happen. Yes. So, it's not that like the Tuesday, Thursdays,
no, it's not like I'm chilling the whole time and just able to drink wine all day. I wish it was like that, right? But no, a lot of people don't. You're absolutely right, Michelle. Thank you for saying that, because I have patients say that, oh, you hardly work. You're only here. And I'm like, you have no idea. I have to be not seeing patients in order to get some of the business work that I would never get down. The marketing, the emails, the thought process of what's happening this month. What are we
strategizing?
Yes.
What new things do we want to get into and bring in?
Absolutely. And that takes some focused time. You can't multitask certain things in your life, Sometimes you can, do laundry and talk on the phone. Yes. Okay. We can do that. But there's certain things you can't be adjusting and planning your next 12 months of your practice. Right. Like that's not
be a little weird.
That's not fair to your patient.
Like, wait, what was I adjusting? I don't even remember anymore.
Like, what was that joy? Yeah. No, we never do that.
Thinking budgets right now. Yeah, I know. It gets crazy.
But that's insightful. So it's like what you see as a patient. There's so much more going on behind the scenes.
Always.
Yeah. Just like anything, just like this podcast. We were talking about that earlier.
Yes. Yeah. Just this is an undertaking too, behind the scenes.
There's a lot that, it's not just putting out the material. It's the behind the scenes.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this is so cool. This is fun. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about why would anyone want to see a chiropractor, but not just anyone? Let's focus on women just because those are the people that are primarily listening to us. Not all. There are lots of different people that are listening, but I think, we're so big on just promoting women's health and people like yourself. So why would a woman, especially, and menopause has been a big topic, so I don't even know if we want to go there, but
I was wondering that. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
So I think that obviously I'm a woman myself, knowing how we have a tendency to put ourselves on the back burner. Let's just face it, right? Everybody else comes first. We're the caretakers, we're the nurturer, whether it's your kids, your husband, your pets, everybody else, your family, your parents. You're taking care of almost everybody, usually ahead of yourself, typically, is the way that most of us are raised, right? We see our moms do this. They put themselves on the back burner. They're not getting their self-care usually. I know my mom wasn't. She was caring for all of us. So with that being said, I think what's lost for us women is that self-care. And self-care is not luxurious. It's actually mandatory, again, to be our best, to feel your best, to be your best is how you're better perceived. You're a better wife. You're a better mother when you feel better. So particularly women, we have a tendency to store our emotions. Naturally, we do that. If we're not expressing it, we're putting it, and it usually goes into our weaker areas of our body. What I mean by that is maybe it's an old strain you had on a knee when you were a kid, doing a certain sport. So later on in life, when you get tense, you tend to feel that knee again, right? It's not like you're still doing that sport anymore necessarily, but it was a weaker area of your body, and emotions will get stored there. So I think sometimes the secret sauce is really taking the time to let some of that out of our bodies. Chiropractic is such a great tool to do that. A lot of times I have women coming in, whether it's sciatica, a lot of times it's neck pain, shoulder pain, migraines, headaches. And then once we start working on their bodies, we start to find out what's really been stored there. Old stuff, insecurities, stresses from their relationships, their kids, lack of things for themselves. And again, it's not a therapy session, but it kind of sometimes can unlock some of that for some of my female patients that come in, that is empowering to them to maybe start taking that, like I really feel like self-love is part of self-discipline is self-love. And, doing these things is really about self-respect. And it shows like to everybody else, your kids, your husband, whomever, right, is around you. So,
right. If you feel better, you're going to show up differently in all of those situations.
So when you feel like your body's working better, and then the chiropractic adjustment, a lot of people don't understand if they haven't received it. It's not just a biomechanical situation where, the joint is going to move better, but because it's so integral to the nerves and the spinal cord, which is basically how your brain connects to everything in your body. Your brain communicates through your nerves and your spinal cord. Having that proper communication on those nerves can free up a lot of different pathways in your body that you didn't even realize were blocked. Like, for example, I'll have patients say, after your adjustment, I had the best bowel movement of my life. I didn't even realize I was
hallelujah.
Right. And a lot of people find taboo of talking about that, but I like talking about that. I'm like, if you're not having a bowel movement at least once a day, we got to talk. Something's not right. We got to.
I know we heard it. You should be going multiple times.
Yes,
a
2
day.
to 3 times a day is the normal, healthiest, digestive system is supposed to be working at its best that way. But so like these are some things that a lot of people don't realize chiropractic can kind of help open the doors, even though that's not their primary reason of coming in. Most patients aren't saying, hey, I want to get a better bowel movement. Can you give me an adjustment for that? Right. It's more like I've got back pain. And then I find out, hey, this nerve affects your bowels. Have you been going to the bathroom? Actually, no, every 2-3 days. What? We got to talk about it, So it is another piece of your health that, again, is without the drugs, without the surgery, that can sometimes kind of open up the pathways inside your body that you didn't even know that you needed to be unblocked, which is pretty amazing, which keeps me really plugged into my day-to-day practice for sure.
I love that you were talking about stored emotion and chiropractic work. Like I had no idea that those two connected, but of course they do. It makes sense. Everything is connected in the way our bodies process emotions. And we're learning so much more about that.
Absolutely. And women, again, like we put ourselves like, it's just, I don't want to spend the money on myself. I don't want to take the time for myself. I got to do this first. But if you realize, if you actually did take care of yourself a little bit better, you're doing those things so much easier, so much more with like joy as
like
well.
A car.
Yes.
You don't get your oil changed and you don't maintain the engine, you're going to break
100%.
Down.
Totally.
Whatever you take care of takes care of you. And that includes your body and your mind, right? If you
totally agree with that. Well, and in the work that I do, I agree.
You understand it, Michelle.
And I know that like for me, when I book with you, I'm getting a massage first and then I'm going in to get adjusted because I tend to also be really like everything gets stored very deeply, and just having someone start to communicate to the muscles and my mind, like, it's okay. And I'll be honest, like I had a fear of chiropractors way back when. I've been going now for quite a while,
people do.
But there was that fear where it's like you'd hear, you're going to have a neck injury or these things are going to happen. So when you're adjusting, because in my family, unfortunately, there's a lot of bone crackers around here. And I know when I bring them to you, you're like, do not crack your own bones, basically. So What are you doing? What exactly is happening when you're adjusting somebody on
So
a physical level?
great question. And that's why I also say to patients, don't go to a party and let someone crack your back. Don't do that. I would never do that if I'm at a party and
I'm pretty
someone
sure our
had asked
husbands
me.
have done that to
I'm
each other.
pretty sure.
You know, because
yeah.
You know, it's like
Sorry.
saying, hey, perform ask an electrician to do your heart surgery. Like, it's not
Yeah.
going to work. But really, I always say you need a proper examination. You need to know if it's safe to have these treatments and movements, and which is why every single person that comes into my office will not be adjusted until they're examined. They're checked for range of motion. We're checked for possible issues with their neck if they were to get an adjustment in their neck. Would it affect their arteries? So that's why we do a baseline test to make sure that I have the right wherewithal to know how to adjust you safely. But what really is taking place during an adjustment, there are so many different vectors, like physics now, we're going into physics, that you can move a bone, especially since there's these nerves sitting in between those bones in the spine. So when you crack, pop, snap, pop, crackle your own spine, what you're really doing is you're getting an endorphin release, but you're actually getting a nitric oxide release. So there's this release of gas that comes out. Same thing when you pop your knuckles or pull your fingers, right? But it doesn't mean you're actually adjusting or realigning the joint. You could just be releasing the gas. It feels good for about 15 minutes or so. And then since you're not really correctly moving the joint, you feel like you need to do it again and again and again. And it becomes this habit where you're actually never really getting an adjustment. You're just popping the gas releasing and you're making the joint weaker and worse. That's why I always tell patients, do not self-adjust. It's very dangerous. Long term, you're usually causing some damage to your ligaments and then you're never really stable. So when I'm actually adjusting a patient, it's based off of obviously their examination. We take digital x-rays. If we have those x-rays, I'll see exactly what's going on. If there's arthritis, degeneration, how is the bone sitting? So it's with a very thoughtful motion of the vector that I'm moving the bone. So you are going to get a lot of times that pop release. Sometimes I adjust patients and there is no pop. There is no gas. And some patients, quite honestly, are so scared of chiropractic that I won't even administer an adjustment that has like a twisting or a popping. We can use tools. We can do other techniques that are very gentle that still bring results and are effective. So they're not nervous about, hey, she's going to crack my back, quote unquote, right? So that's the difference. So when you're self-adjusting, it's just like saying, I'm just going to put some glue over this. I'm going to patch something up, but I'm not sure what I'm really fixing.
Makes sense.
And I think that that's where a lot of people get that misconception about going to see the chiropractor is they think it is just the popping and the cracking, and it is going to be something that you're going to have to go to all the time to have any kind of sense of relief.
Great point there
explained
too, Greta,
so
because
much better.
people say that to me a lot too. Well, if I go to the chiropractor, I'm going to have to keep going. And I say, well, if you keep showering, you're going to want to keep showering. If you keep exercising, why would you want to stop doing the things that make you better, whether it's taking your vitamins every day, getting your stretch in, getting a massage, getting your exercise? Chiropractic is actually one of those things that when you are feeling good, you do it to continue to be your best. And it's a choice. It's never a necessity. It's always a personal choice. So a lot of my patients choose to come in without those aches and pains saying, oh, I know it's 2 weeks. I don't want to get that issue in my neck because I know I've been sitting at the computer too long. I know I've been in front of my device.
And the interesting thing is it's like preventative medicine too, right? Whereas I think we are a culture of, oh, if there's a symptom, then we go in and try to figure out what's going on. Excuse me. But the reality is, I know for me personally, the reason why I go in regularly, and I mean, I'm sure I can probably even use a lot more work, but I have an acupuncturist that I see on a regular basis. I have a team of people that I go to.
Yes.
And do you know how many times a year I get sick? Probably zero. I mean, it is very rare. You know, Greta, I mean, even through podcasting, it's very rare that I have ever spent a day in bed or have woken up in the morning feeling, I mean, sure, I might be tired and some of that's self-inflicted, like I stayed up late, drank, whatever that might look like. But the reality is, it is part of my preventative care. And I think what people don't realize too is, I know everybody has a lot of different insurance plans and things like that, but a lot of FSA or HSA, you can utilize these things for services like chiropractic care.
You can, FSA, HSA. And, you made a great point, Michelle, like health insurance is always an issue for patients. And I always try to remind patients that health insurance is like your car insurance. It's more like crisis care. Health insurance doesn't pay for anything really to make you healthy.
Mm.
I mean, name one thing.
Yeah.
Do they pay for your vitamins? Do they pay for your green juice? I mean, do they pay for anything, your gym membership? No. They're going to pay for, I broke my arm. I need to go to the hospital. I need a cast. I need surgery. I need a medication right now for this condition. It's crisis care. So it's okay to be proactive and invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to do that, typically later on in life, you're going to put more time and money into your health because you have to. Not because you want to. It's like there's no choice now. So it's kind of like, pay me now, pay me later, you know?
And you're worth it. Like, I think we lose sight of the fact that
Yes.
I deserve this. Like, when I look at this type of work, and massage school may have opened my eyes to that, and yoga training and things like that. I got this information not from my house, not from my parents, but through my own seeking of like what else is available to me. And as I have learned about all these different modalities, we had a craniosacral therapist come in and speak. And so any of these things that are looked at as alternative, because that's kind of how they're categorized, right? To me, in my world, this is my health care insurance.
This is your
this is my plan.
Yes.
This is my primary care.
Yes.
This is my go-to first, unless there is something like I do need some sort of surgery, which I will try to avoid at all costs.
Absolutely.
But I think we need to shift our minds. And I will say, just to give a quick little plug on some insurance companies, there are some that are opening up to this idea a little bit. I still haven't seen the green juice on there. I still haven't seen some of the vitamins.
Probably won't.
I'm like, come on,
Right.
come on.
There are.
I need to start a whole advocacy group. But honestly, my insurance now has been paying for my adjustments. It's been paying for acupuncture. And I feel so blessed for that. Because it does, I'm going to be honest, it does make it a little easier to say, yes, I can do this for myself because I'm getting some help with it.
Absolutely.
And again, I believe in all of this work. So I will work harder to pay out of pocket if I have to, because it does allow me to feel good and feel just so many ways. I love what you said about opening, like releasing the emotions and just these pathways in our body, and I've struggled with little things, frozen shoulder. And again, having some of those little things that have shown up in my life has allowed me to be a better practitioner because I also understand what people are going.
Definitely.
So, as these things come up, I'm not saying I welcome ailments, but I also look at it like, ooh, this is an opportunity to be another testimony for when I go to see my chiro or I go to see my acupuncturist. These are the things that have helped me and have allowed me to reduce all of these. And so when it comes, let's go back to menopause conversation.
Yes.
For a
I was
moment.
just going to
I
say.
was thinking that too. Yes.
Yes. Well, frozen shoulder is a symptom in menopause. And I just heard about that. So that made me want to bring
that's
up
another
menopause
thing.
again. So yeah.
Chiropractic has a lot of impact on our hormones just because it's all centered again in our nervous system. So
All connected.
It is. So, even perimenopause, I know I've been going through it myself. I mean,
Same.
Yeah. So I think we're all
Good
like,
times,
oh,
yeah.
my gosh, I'm
We're all
running
swimming
warm.
in that same
and like,
ocean.
and there's moments where I'm telling my husband, I'm like, just forgive me in advance for today. If I'm a little bit not as pleasant as I usually am, don't take it personally. I can't control it. So it's a real thing. And I also find that we need to talk about it some more and not make it so taboo because it's isolating to think that something's wrong with me. What's wrong with me? And I felt that at moments, like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not my cherry berry self that I usually am?
Or you're sitting in a business meeting and you're profusely sweating and you're just
Absolutely
like, oh
happens
my
all-
God, like I feel so uncomfortable right now. Are people seeing this? My hair is starting to look a little drenched. I mean, this is like real physiological stuff that is happening.
It
and
is.
it's embarrassing.
And there's so many symptoms that we don't even realize that are connected to perimenopause.
It is. And I think not to go down this rabbit hole, but what's unfortunate is that there's a lot of factors that are impacting our hormones outside of us, meaning the foods that we eat, the preservatives, the chemicals that we're touching.
Girl, don't get me
That we're
started.
breathing. We can't control all of those factors. I mean, yeah, of course you can control like certain foods that you might eat or not eat, but it's just really challenging that it's impacting even individuals at a younger
It's
age.
challenging to stay
Yes.
away from chemicals,
It
unfortunately,
is.
in the United States.
I mean, you touch anything and you're like, okay, plastic has probably been now. I mean,
Yeah.
I know we've all probably heard this thing like we all have like a credit card size plastic within our cells now from just all the plastic stuff that we containers and things like that. So that's impacting our
I've heard they find
hormones.
plastic in our menstrual cycle now. Like they're
Yes. There's so many ways.
it's in our uterus and on the lining of our uterus.
So
like we've just
we have to find ways that help mitigate this because we can't solve all the problems, unfortunately. Like I said, outside of us, we can't always control those things. But I feel that if you can do stuff that helps to minimize these spikes, abnormal spikes of your hormones, it could be helpful. So I'm a big proponent of using like natural, holistic creams that are going to help with balancing your hormones. I think it's important to get a test, see where you stand with your progesterone, estrogen, your DHEA, which is like the mother hormone to both of those. Get some idea. It's okay to find out these things. And again, you might have to pay out of pocket to do these tests. That's okay. If
It'll
it
change
brings
your
you some
life.
results.
It's
Absolutely.
life-changing.
make you
I have
feel
a
normal
question.
again.
I do have a question for you. Have you found, and again, I know your practice isn't just like centered on women, but I'm just out of curiosity, have you found that like pelvic adjustments have also helped women when it comes to just like, whether they're experiencing vaginal dryness or just even just feeling blocked in that area as they're going through all these hormone changes?
Another thing, thanks for bringing that up, Michelle, like is for women that have issues with incontinence. A lot of adjustments that take place in the pelvis, the lower back, that section between like your, under your bra strap. That's a big area that impacts our bladder control, things like that. A lot of people don't.
Wait,
even
what?
realize. Yes.
What?
So under your bra strap, there's some vertebrae there that impact. Basically, your nerves impact muscles, and your muscles are, your bladder is a muscle. Your digestive system is a smooth muscle, so it helps some of these things. And as we get older, as women, that is a big problem. We've had babies, we have incontinence. This is a common thing that a lot of us we don't talk about, publicly. But I'm also about let's talk about these things.
Well, that sounds like Eastern medicine a little bit
It
to me. Like
is.
you can
Very
touch
holistic.
here and then have an experience on the opposite side of your body.
Absolutely. Yeah, because the left side controls the right side of your, left side of your brain controls the right side of your body. So it is all like reverse. And it is, chiropractic is very holistic Eastern style.
Yeah, it's kind of a marrying
more
of
so,
the two.
yes. Yeah. So that's why we mirror and work with like acupuncturists and massage therapists and, and I obviously work with medical doctors too. I have to say that through my 20 years, I've seen more medical doctors being open-minded to referring to chiropractors. I get a lot of doctors that actually are patients. I have surgeons that are patients. I mean, so it's a really beautiful feeling to have now the younger generation that are in the medicine field seeking the value of chiropractic and also telling their patients, don't get hooked on opioids, go see a chiropractor.
Yes,
try something that's more
yes.
natural. So there is a shift too in our healthcare industry. I think that's showing up because people don't realize there's no such thing as a quick fix. There's no magic pill. Whatever you're doing, it's about a lifestyle. It is about consistency.
Well, we see where quick fixes have gotten us as a nation.
Totally.
We are one of the sickest, most overweight, unhealthy nations.
Absolutely.
And yet we spend a fortune on healthcare.
100%.
So I love that you're opening up our minds to that there's another way. And you can feel better.
Yes.
That doesn't have to be your normal. You can go in and see Dr. Haque and that can be your new normal.
100%. I always welcome that. I enjoy being able to bring that to patients in their lives, through the adjustments. It's always so rewarding to hear them say something like that if they do feel that. But it's a process. And I think that we have to be a little more graceful with ourselves and know that, okay, I'm a work in progress at every stage of a life. Like I said, what you needed maybe when you're in your 20s or your 30s is going to be different in your 40s and your 50s as our bodies are shifting. Our healthcare routines will shift. Our routines, things that we might eat will shift. How we take care of ourselves will shift. Hopefully it gets better. And, you mentioned, Michelle, about, do you have to go all the time or, with chiropractic? It's just like, anything else, the more consistent you are at doing the good things for you, the greater your rewards are, the better you see it, and the more you're likely to stay the course.
Well, I think your body starts to create a new normal, right? And so what used to be that like go to that vulnerable spot, now it's like you've created a more holistic you. And so that is your new normal now. And that's ultimately our goal, right? Is always trying to feel the best we can.
I also think we forget how, like, we think that we're just supposed to feel physically a certain way, like the pain that we, like this dull pain that we're just
get used to
waking
it
up with every day. We just sort of get used to
deal
it.
with it.
Yeah, and we think that that is our life now. And it doesn't have to be, is what you're saying.
Absolutely,
And
Greta. That is such a good point.
exciting.
Because most of my patients have usually had their aches and pains for years. Majority. I mean, I do have some people that are brand new acute injuries, car accidents, a fall, something like that. But a lot of the times, 80% of the patients that I that are new patients tell me, yeah, I've actually had this for years. I didn't realize you get used to, maybe don't sit that way. Maybe just you don't turn your head as far anymore. You just, it's like, going in a warm bath and you don't realize it's heating up, right? Like, so we are adaptable. We can adapt to good and bad things. That's what's kind of scary about our bodies too. Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, even just waking up in the morning when you're in your 40s hurts. I feel
Yes.
like so.
No, it shouldn't though. It should
You're
not
stiffer.
hurt.
You're stiffer as we get older, for sure.
I just remember being in my 20s and I would just jump out of bed and
know.
get in the shower. And
Roll
now
out
I'm
and
like,
go.
I know.
oh, I got to get on my vibration plate. I got to do yoga.
I got to stretch before I got to heat up first. I got to
mentally prepare myself before I do anything.
Well,
Totally.
This has been so incredible and fun talking to you.
fun
and
too.
having you on.
Speaking of
Yes.
fun, though,
It's the holiday time.
Dr. Haque brought us gifts.
I just
Yeah,
brought you guys
and
a little something because it's holiday time, and I love coming with something versus nothing. So.
Oh.
And I started opening.
That's okay. Open it. Open it.
I got
wait.
excited.
It's nothing major.
Before we even recorded, she's like, "Oh, let's open these now." I was like, "No, let's wait."
I love getting a present. It's so fun
Right.
when you don't expect it.
Okay,
see?
I just see one word.
You already know what it is.
I have an idea
It's such a
what it
small
is.
thing. I just thought
said it's one of her
something I
favorite
use.
Ooh,
Yes.
I love this brand. I don't know
Yes.
how
So,
to pronounce
Just
it.
a little some self-care
Okay.
for us ladies.
Dry skin hand cream, which right
It's
now
wintertime.
is necessary.
I use both of those a
And I
lot.
got the foot cream, which I actually really need. 'cause
Okay, I
I'm
wasn't
a
sure. I just sort of like
barefoot
picked one.
Junkie. I have a garden, and I'm always, even in the winter, I am
just
out there
knew.
with bare feet. Which
I just knew, Greta. I just knew.
She knew intuitively.
Yes, see? We said it at the same time. Yes.
funny.
Always follow your gut, right, ladies?
Oh, thank you
So
so,
fun.
much.
You're so welcome.
Great
This
to
has
have
been
you
having
on.
me on. This was such a pleasure and a delight, really. Yeah, and I love being able to talk to other women that really understand this and are interested in just bettering themselves and helping to better the lives of other individuals. So, and you are in that industry too, Michelle, with your hands and your expertise. And Greta, I already feel
Yes,
like I
we're
was close
healers.
to you just through Katie.
Oh.
Just already knowing you, like just through
I know.
that.
It's so great to finally get to meet you in person. And I mean, it can't ever really do it justice. You really do light up a room.
Oh.
You are inspiring, an entrepreneur, businesswoman, so driven, and you're a healer. And you are, I think this episode is going to just show women like what you can do with your life if you just ask questions and you're curious and you keep digging and finding and searching for that thing that lights you up.
Absolutely. It is never too late to start. Whether you're 50, 60, if you want something's like burning inside, just start it. Just do it. Just try it. Life's too short to not.
I agree. And so for those listening, we will also have a link to your site. And I know you have a newsletter that you send out periodically with different things you have going on in your place. And so we'll make sure everybody has access to all of that.
Great.
But thank you again. And this was fantastic.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Keep being annoying and asking all the questions.
Always.